Welcome back, guys. Anthropic just released a brand new model. It is the Claude Opus 4.7, said to be the most capable model available to the public right now. The one above it is Claude Mythos Preview, which isn't publicly available right now. So when someone asks what the best model is right now, you could say the Opus 4.7 is the best AI model today, which is probably only going to be for the next couple of weeks with the speed of evolution that is occurring with AI right now. Let's go through what actually changed and what the numbers actually mean. Let's start with the SWE Bench Pro. This test with an AI can resolve real bugs in production level open source code. No toy problems, real issues for real repos. That's what it is right now. So if you're looking at this benchmarks, Opus hit 64.3, up from 53.4 on Opus 4.6. That's a 11-point jump in a single release. GPT 5.4 sits at 57.7. Gemini Pro sits at 54.2. And Mythos, the one that we never got to use, or which I kind of think that this is a diluted version of Mythos. So I tend to think that's what we're going to end up getting within the next couple of months anyway, is sitting at 77.8, which is great. It's not marginal. That's a real lead on the benchmark that matters most for anyone building with AI. Now, the SWE Bench Verified, same concept, different test set. The Opus 4.7 sits at 87.6. The Opus 4.6 sits at 80.8. And the Gemini sitting at 80.6 and Mythos 93.9. It's a clean lead on both coding benchmarks. But now, if you're looking at Mythos, 93.9 is kind of crazy. It's so far ahead that now it just creates more curiosity and more excitement for Mythos or what Anthropic has coming ahead in the future, because 93.9 has already been done. They're just giving us a more diluted version of Mythos. That's what I think. And eventually we are going to get Mythos. Okay. This next number is the one that no one is expecting, which is the cursor bench. It's AI coding specifically inside of Cursor IDE. It went from 58% up to 70% on Opus 4.7. A 12-point jump. That's kind of an improvement that shows in real day-to-day work when you're building or debugging. And if you're already at 70%, if these AIs are progressing at an exponential rate, how far are we from 100%? As in months, as weeks? I genuinely think it's going to be a couple of months maximum. It's not going to be years. But then I guess that would entail that new tests have to be developed in order for us to actually figure out what or how smart the LLMs are. Now, let's go to the graduate level reasoning, which is the reasoning element of the LLMs. The GPQA Diamond, GPT sits at, let's look at the GPQA, which is graduate level reasoning. GPT 5.4 sits at 94. Let's look at the graduate level reasoning. Opus 5.7 sits at 94.2. The Opus 4.6 sits at 91.3. GPT 5.4 at 94.4, and the Gemini Pro at 94.3. It's all a tie. I guess it's a three-way tie. The margin of difference is 0.2 percentage points. At that level, the differences are not going to be that noticeable. Anyone telling you one clearly wins here is reading way too much into the rounding errors. MCP Atlas is the one that's meaningful if you're running AI agents, automations, or any workflow where the model needs to call tools. APIs, function calls, search, MCP Atlas. Test that exactly. Okay. The Gemini 4.7 sits at 73.7. Opus 4.7 sits at 77.3. Opus 4.6 sits at 75.8. Gemini Pro sitting at 73.9. And GPT 5.4 sitting at 68.1. A 9-point lead over GPT 5.4 on the benchmark that directly measures agentic multi-tool work. If you're building automations or running AI agents, that gap is truly meaningful. Now, beyond benchmarks, the 4 changes worth knowing that are impactful are the adaptive thinking. Previously, all we had was extended thinking, and it was a toggle. On and off, leave it on, and it would think through everything, including questions that didn't really need you to be burning a massive amount of tokens on simple tasks. In Opus 4.7, thinking is adaptive. Turn it on, leave it on. Claude decides on how much reasoning each question actually needs. Simple things, you get an answer really quickly, a really fast reply. Hard ones get the full chain of thought. So you stop managing. So there's multiple levels of reasoning. So we've got X high for all plans. It's a new setting between high and max. The practical use case is when you're finding yourself re-prompting on high effort because the answer isn't quite there. One attempt on X high often costs less overall than 3 attempts on high, which is pretty cool. Although we're going to be having so many options. You're going to have thinking, high thinking, X high, which I'm guessing is extended high, and then max. Why don't you just keep it as 2? At least maybe X high, high. I think if it already has adaptive thinking, I think that's just a little bit of overkill. The Opus 4.7 processes images up to 2,576 pixels on the long edge. That's more than 3 times the previous limit. This is for dense charts and matters that require the computer use agent to read technical diagrams, scan documents, or fine UI detail accurately. Now, if we go to the tasks and budgets, okay, this is in public beta, so it'll let you set a token or dollar cap on long-running agentic tasks, so it doesn't run indefinitely. We also do get Ultra Review, which produces a dedicated review session that reads through changes and flags bugs, which is really cool. This runs multiple specialized review agents simultaneously and synthesizes their findings. It's the difference between one reviewer and having 4 running in parallel on your code bases, which will be really, really handy. Anthropic confirmed that low effort Opus 4.7 performs at roughly the same quality as medium effort 4.6. Although your usage between 4.6 and 4.7 is set to be the same until you get to extended high thinking. Okay, so it's the same output quality, lower token costs, price unchanged. That means your effective cost per output went down without changing your plan, which is awesome. Now here's an honest take. 2 benchmarks where Opus 4.7 doesn't lead is reasoning. So GPT 5.4 takes the lead in that. It edges by 0.2%. In practice, that's nothing, but it's there. And then you've got browser comp. The GPT 5.4 is 89.3 and Opus 4.7 is 79.3. The 4.6 is at 83.7, which is interesting because Opus is the newer model. So why is the agentic search going down? Sometimes you kind of just wonder, do they just slightly change this for the sake of giving the public the idea that, oh yeah, we'd actually do these tasks? Who knows? And I would be very curious on where Perplexity sits on this. The browser comp is deep web search and information retrieval. So 5.4 Pro is sitting at 8.3, Opus 4.7, 79.3. That's a 10-point gap. If your work is very, very heavily research focused, pulling and synthesizing information from across the web, GPT 5.4 still has a meaningful edge here. And multilingual Gemini 3.1 leads at 92.6. And frankly, I would much rather use Gemini over Open AI ChatGPT because I actually haven't used ChatGPT, in a hot minute now. It's been months since I used ChatGPT because I just didn't like the output. Now, if you look at the overall picture, Claude takes the cake when it comes to coding and agentic tasks. And the reasoning improvements are quite phenomenal, and they're pretty cool, and they're pretty good. I have done a few tests today, and it is significantly faster when you're asking simple questions. Haven't dove real deep into complex prompting. However, it's going to come with time anyway. And they also did release a new app alongside the 4.7. And the app is also some dramatic improvements, and the UI is very user-friendly. I will say though, if you're a newbie and you're someone who's just learning how to use Claude and you're downloading the application, it's a little bit more intuitive, so you're going to have to learn the basics a little bit. However, in the next video, I'll go through the new changes on the new Claude app, the application, and how to actually use it. And I will also be going through a lot of this in our school.com. So like, subscribe, and join our school.com, where we'll be sharing a bunch of this information, a bunch of new tools, a bunch of workflows and automations and all that kind of stuff to help you in your AI journey. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.